If you want to be more efficient and effective while running your business with more inner peace than working on the core of your issues instead of putting on a band-aid is vital. Welcome to the Business Brain Podcast.
I'm your host, Esty Rapport, and here to help you improve your 28 cognitive functions, the 28 things that make up thinking. In each episode, we'll discuss a real-life challenge, why you might be struggling with it, and give you practical strategies so all areas of your life will improve.
You've tried Chat GPT or some sort of AI, but it doesn't seem to give you what you want. Until they come out with some sort of better version, you're not getting yourself into AI. Let's change that and make using Chat GPT or any AI a whole lot easier for you. That's what's coming up next on the Business Brain Podcast, episode 404. But first, want a super easy to understand, super easy to implement resource on cognitive functions? I got you. Grab a copy of your essential guide to cognitive functions at lifepixuniversity.com/guide. It's LifePix, P-I-X, university.com/guide. For today's real life challenge, imagine you asked ChatGPT to write your sales page, and the response was way too boring and sounds too much like AI. You might be struggling with using AI if you have the weak thinking skills of labeling, being precise, or considering another perspective. Yup. You need really similar thinking skills to using ChatGPT as you need to set boundaries. Last week, in episode 403, we spoke about using labels and being precise when setting boundaries so others know what you're talking about and showing self-control to actually hold it through. Just like you need to be strong in labeling and being precise so other people understand you when setting boundaries, you need to use these thinking skills to prompt ChatGPT, as it also needs to understand you. Thinking is not one big thing. Rather, it's made up of 28 thinking skills called cognitive functions. We use these cognitive functions to do almost every activity throughout the day. Naturally, we will have some stronger ones and weaker ones, but those weaker ones are making it challenging for you to do what you want to do. Just like we said here, we need the cognitive function of labeling and being precise for both setting boundaries and prompting ChatGPT, plus a whole bunch of other things that we do as we go about our life. But today we're talking about ChatGPT. So let's break it down. In order for ChatGPT to understand you, you need to use labels and being precise in telling it what to do. Remember, labels is using the correct name for objects, ideas, concepts, places, emotions, etc. And being precise is being exact in what you say and do. When we're prompting AI, it's about being precise in your prompt. There's another cognitive function that I mentioned in the beginning that is also required for you to get good results out of ChatGPT, and that is considering another perspective. Although AI doesn't have emotions, you've got to consider its perspective. AI does not know anything about you or your business. If you tell me, write me a sales page, obviously that's too generic. You've got to consider the perspective of AI and how it knows nothing about you in all of your prompts. I'm going to give you some tips on how to put in good prompts, but you first got to understand if you struggle with labeling, being precise, or considering another perspective, you'll only be able to put in prompts other people give you, because then you're not really using your brain and you're just copying and pasting. If you want to get the most out of ChatGPT or AI in general, you will want to work on those cognitive functions so you can come up with better prompts for you and your business. You got that? Good. So To get better at labeling, you'll want to call items by their names and not just call it this or that. Be aware as you go about your day that you're calling items by their specific names. To get better at being precise, you want to take a moment whenever talking or writing to make sure you're expressing what you want to say correctly. Don't just say whatever's. Explain it well. Be precise in your language. And to get better at considering another person's perspective, take a moment to think about what is going through that person's mind before you give them an answer. How are they feeling? Why do they think that way? And what caused them to say that? Once that's clear and you're strong at those good cognitive functions, we can now get into prompting Chat GPT. As I share these prompts, I want you to think about which one of the cognitive function it's coming from: labeling, being precise, or considering another perspective. So you can see how it all ties in together. Let's get into it. Number one, tell it to act as and put in your title. Act as a nutritionist, act as a copywriter, act as a life coach. The more detailed you get in your act as, the better the prompt will be. So don't just say act as a copywriter. You'll want to say act as a copywriter for Shopify. Give specific examples. Like the more specific you could get, right? Being precise. Okay. Number two, ask it to write in the style of an author of another personality. You can even upload different blog posts you wrote in the past or different chapters from other authors that you like and you want it to be in that personality, and then tell it that the rest of it should be in that same sort of style. Number three, ask it to put all the information in a table. This is especially helpful for whenever you ask a lot of information that you would personally put it in a table. Think social media content with titles, captions, scripts, and hashtags. What about product research with model, materials, and price, right? Like anything that you would use Google Sheets or Excel for, ask it to put it in a table. Number four, give it limits. Sometimes AI likes to write long. Tell it 2 sentences or 500 words, depending on what you're working on. Number five, tell AI who your audience is. Men in their 50s, 10-year-olds, high school students who don't like listening to their parents. The more precise you are about it, the more we'll be able to understand you. Number six, give it an example or two and ask it for more like it. And number seven, my absolute favorite, is tell it that you are going to ask it for a whole bunch of copy or a whole bunch of things coming out afterwards. But you want it to make sure it understands you. You are coming into the conversation and you are telling AI, I know you don't understand me. Ask me any questions that you need so that way you can understand me. For example, this is the prompt I like to use, is in a minute, I'm going to ask you to write copy for my business. This will include blog content, podcast ideas, TikTok video scripts, and more. But before we begin, I want you to fully understand my business and my customers. Ask me at least 20 questions about my business, customers, audience, and anything else you will need in order to complete the task to the best of your ability. Now you are giving AI a chance to actually understand you. You're going to answer those questions, and only afterwards will you ask it for the prompt that you want it to do. In this episode, we discussed the cognitive function required to get the most out of Chat GPT: labeling, being precise, and considering another perspective. You've got 2 challenges this week. Number one, take one of the cognitive functions we spoke about and work on it for 5 minutes a day. All you've got to do is be aware and be conscious as you're working on this cognitive function. Number 2, use Chat GPT with at least one of the prompts we spoke about. Have an awesome rest of your day, and cheers to peak brain performance.
That's all for this episode of the Business Brain Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 2 of your business friends so they too can gain from it, and you'll be helping us reach our goal of 1 million downloads by the end of 2025. Cheers to peak brain performance.